Welcome back for week 17 sit start part 2. We have Saturday games, Sunday games, and Monday games to cover. So this is a little bit longer of an episode than we normally have, but we're going to cover all the remaining games and who you should sit start and some urgent injury news that we found out over the last 24 hours.
Yeah, there's lots of news coming out about injuries. Let's kick it off with the injury news with the Chargers. So Gus Edwards is out this week. We all thought he was going to have a great matchup. They're playing the New England Patriots. It's in New England. Chargers were favored. I haven't checked the line this morning to see if it's moved any. They're probably still favored. The over under is 42.5. But Gus Edwards is out. We don't know if J.K. Dobbins is going to be activated off of IR. They did open his window, so it is possible that we get J.K. Dobbins back. After that, it's Kamani Vidal, the rookie that hasn't really been impressive, or Hassan Haskins, who did get a touchdown last week, but he was involved on two catches and not rushing the ball. This is a great, great matchup for whoever ends up running the ball against the Patriots. Maybe they'll give the rookie a chance, and if you can't get it done against the Patriots, you can't get it done.
Should people who have Gus Edwards maybe run to their waiver wires and see if they could pick up one of or Hassan just in case, or maybe block someone from taking them?
Definitely. Yeah, that's a good play because this is a great matchup. And if you had Gus Edwards and you were planning on playing him, there's not a lot to be picking up this week. And hopefully it was in your flex anyway. But the other overlying theme this week is rain. Every game has rain. If it's not in a dome, it's going to be raining at some point in the game, it seems like. And we did some investigation. We talked about this on DFS, but we did some investigation. And when we always look at those over unders, because usually it ends up being higher scoring, then you end up with more fantasy points. So we like that over under. And in rain games, they only hit the over 40% of the time, 41% of the time, and normally it's 51%. So there's definitely that decrease in production for points in
And we saw
games.
that
So it's
last night with
concerning.
the Seattle Chicago game where it was very under
We did,
what was
yeah, 6-3. That was a stinker of a game. What a way to end Thursday night football. That was just awful.
so who do you have any must starts, especially with Edwards out and J.K. Dobbins unknown? Who are you
So
starting?
yeah, the Chargers haven't locked up that wild card spot yet. They need a win. And the Patriots are bad at stopping the run. They're also bad at stopping the pass, but the run more so. They are really bad at that. I don't really like any of the Patriots side of the ball. You didn't get to your championship weekend, but if you're playing for your consolation or, different level, then you may be picking up a Patriot player. Ramadre Stevenson, I guess, is a chance in this matchup. Chargers are really good at stopping people. The Chargers have the top scoring defense in the NFL, and they've allowed less than 20 points in each of their road games. So the odds of anything going really right for the Patriots side of the ball isn't really good. I don't like starting any of them. For the Chargers, I feel like it's up in the air, like we just talked about. I would have recommended Gus Edwards and starting Gus Edwards. If they activate J.K. Dobbins, he's a must start as well. I don't know if they're going to activate him if it's raining and you can only get your players hurt going into the playoff. Is that what you want to do? Or do you want to take this easy matchup and let your rookie see what he can get done? I'm kind of leaning that way, but we'll see if they activate him or not. It also puts more emphasis on that passing game. So Lad McConkey is a must start now with the running game going to be used less and Justin Herbert. Although their ceiling's a little bit less here because I don't think they'll be pushed to do a whole lot.
Let's continue on to the Denver at Cincinnati game where Cincinnati's favored by 3.5 and the over under is 49.5. Cincinnati's been a good team to score 30 points, let the other team score 30 points, as we keep saying. What do you think here?
Joe Burrow leads the NFL with 4,229 passing yards and 39 touchdown passes this season. He passed for 252 yards last week and 3 touchdowns. He became the first player to ever have 250 yards and 3 touchdown passes in 7 consecutive games. So now he's going to see if he can stretch that again to 8 games. Denver obviously is going to try to stop him, and Denver leads the NFL with 51 sacks, including 7 players with 3 or more sacks. The Broncos can also get a playoff spot with a win. This is setting up to be a fun game. This is probably the best game on the slate on Saturday, I feel like. It should be the most fun. Jamar Chase leads in receptions, 108 and 1,510 yards. It's going to be a great game. And then we know that Cincinnati, like you said, is giving up those points as well. So, hey, let's bring in Bo Nix and see what he and Cortland Sutton can do. I
And you're favoring
I
the passing side more than the running side for Denver?
I am, yeah, that running back situation for the Broncos is a little bit crazy. I never know what Sean Payton's gonna throw at us from week to week, is it going to be Jaleel McLaughlin this week who missed the last game, or is it going to be Blake Watson who he brought in last week? Maybe he
And
brought
then
him
they also
in.
have Estime and Williams.
Yes, they do. So I'll stay away from the Broncos running situation. Obviously, you're starting Bo Nix, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Cortland Sutton, probably T. Higgins, because he's been pretty solid the last few weeks. He's probably a wide receiver 2 or 3 for you. And even Chase Brown has a chance in this game. I'm leaning a little bit away from Chase Brown, but since he's the only back in their backfield, he's almost a must start as well. He
Well, let's
doesn't
chat.
share with 4 other people like the Broncos do.
Well, let's chat Arizona at the LA Rams, where the Rams are favored by 6.5. Over under is 47.5. This is technically a dome, but hopefully they don't have any lightning delays or anything. I still can't believe that from years ago when there was a
Yeah,
lightning delay at this stadium.
hopefully not. The Rams have technically a 1-game lead over the Seahawks. The Seahawks got that win last night. It's still a win, even though it was 6-3. They got that win. So that is going to push the Rams to get their win because they do play each other next week. It's going to be a fun game. I don't know who owns that tiebreaker at this time, but it could come down to that game. The Cardinals have been eliminated from the playoffs, so they're not playing for anything here except for some pride in the division. And
Any
since week
jobs?
10, any jobs? Maybe. I don't know. Since week 10, Puka Nacua leads the NFL with 57 receptions and second in yards with 709. On
That's
the
kind of sorry, I was just gonna say that's kind
no,
of amazing given that at the start of the season he got injured. And we were wondering if this was gonna be a reverse of Nakua Cup last year and Cup was gonna come in and be the stellar one and Nakua was gonna be injured all season.
yeah, no, it's definitely Puka since week 10, and Cooper Cup has failed to top 5.4 fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 games. So we aren't seeing that connection with Cup, or he's getting more covered, or maybe Puka's just more wide open. Who knows? But it definitely is going to Puka Nakua. So you're starting Puka. You're starting Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams, he's still getting the majority of the carries. You can't not give the ball to him and start him, although he's just so inefficient at running that ball. But this is a great, great matchup for him. So you're starting both of them. And we're still hoping Trey McBride can get that touchdown, but it just hasn't happened yet. He's a must start, though. He had a down week last week. I think he was only worth 5 points. He cost me in best ball. And this week he has a good matchup. So is he finally going to get it, or are we going to go into week 18 going, is Trey McBride going to ever get a touchdown in this season?
Anyone else you like from the Arizona side?
The Arizona side is a little bit interesting. Kyler Murray, he has a good start in this. He had 22 fantasy points in the loss to the Panthers last week. And when these two teams met in week 2, Murray had 266 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he ran for 59 yards. So it comes down to motivation. Are they trying to show that they have what it takes going into 2025 and keep some of this team together? And then there's James Conner. He left last week's game with a knee injury, didn't come back, but he's listed as questionable. His backup, Trey Benson, isn't practicing either, and he's listed as questionable. One of the other running backs, Michael Carter, they put back on the practice squad on Monday, so I don't know where this is all going. They have another running back as well, but we're going to have to wait and keep looking at the injury reports to see who's going to be running the ball. They do have a good matchup, so they're a cautious start, whoever is running the ball for the Cardinals. And then Matthew Stafford, this has the potential to get into a shootout. And then it brings in both quarterbacks. And sitting at 47.5, you can tell Vegas is sitting there going, yeah, maybe it'll get into that shootout.
Let's move on to the Jets at Buffalo, where Buffalo is favored by 9.5. Over under is 46.5. Outdoor stadium. At least it's going to be a not too cold, rainy day. Not snowy.
Yeah. It's not snowy. It's a warm rain all on the East Coast. I think there are even some thunderstorms predicted on Sunday night for the game in Washington. But it's a warm rain. It's like 50 degrees. Of course, that 50 degrees and standing in the rain with a little wind isn't real comfortable. I officiated a couple games like that, and it was just completely miserable. Your hands are still frozen.
I guess we'll see a lot of the like little mitt things that they put their hands in while they're having to stand around.
Yeah, and raincoats to try to keep you somewhat dry. So the Bills can go 8-0 at home this year with a win. And Aaron Rodgers has 499 regular season touchdown passes and can become the fifth player with 500. Comes down to motivation here. Buffalo's locked in at number 2. They can't improve, they can't fall from that number 2 spot. So what do they want to do to win this game? You also have a beat up Josh Allen. And now you've got it raining. What do you want to risk in this game to get this win that is worth nothing? I don't like really depending on the Bills to start everyone, and I really don't think we'll see them play an entire game, which is going to lessen their fantasy production, obviously. If Josh Allen got you here, you're going to probably have to start him, but you might look around and there might be more motivated players sitting out there that could win that game. I guess the only must start I have is Davante Adams because Aaron Rodgers is going to play. Aaron Rodgers wants Davante Adams to look good. And the Buffalo gives up the 5th most passing touchdowns per game. So he's got a good matchup.
Yeah. I think Aaron Rodgers is also definitely going to be motivated to become that 5th person to hit 500 regular season passing touchdowns. So
yeah, this one there. Rodgers and Adams may be looking for jobs, so they're trying to showcase their talent a little bit. Although I think we're all over Aaron Rodgers. I like Davante Adams, but I can move on from Aaron Rodgers for sure. James Cook for the Bills may be running the ball a lot, and we may see a lot more of Ray Davis as well in this matchup. That's going to be ugly.
Yep. With the rain tends to move away from passing just because it's slippier. Can't speak. Rain tends to move away from passing just so that you're less likely to drop the ball, turn over the ball, hopefully.
I guess it's a little harder to catch it, probably. I'm not sure. I need to actually pull the passing statistics from rain games, which I haven't done, but that'll go on our stats list of things to pull.
Well, let's chat Tennessee at Jacksonville, where Jacksonville's favored by 1. Over under is 41. Both of these teams are 3-12.
Yeah, they're playing for the bottom of the AFC South. Who's gonna be hit the bottom?
Division.
Yeah, that division is just awful. I can't believe Houston is winning that division and they look so bad on Christmas Day. 2 points and they're winning the division. It's just sad. Both of these teams are playing for draft picks, see what their rookies can do, see what they have. Coaches are trying to keep their job probably in the NFL. The only one that is a must start from this game for me is Brian Thomas Jr., who just keeps getting it done. He has not been below 75 yards and 16.6 DraftKings points since the bye week. and he's had back-to-back 30-point games, which is a little concerning because I think everything gravitates towards average. So back-to-back 30-point games, I feel like he ought to get back to average. These teams played just a couple weeks ago in week 14, and it was Jacksonville 10 and Tennessee 6.
So we could get another.
Yeah,
No
we
one
all thought we
wants
were going to get
work.
Yep, we all thought we were going to get a great game that week, and it ended up a real dud. So we'll see if this one doesn't end up a dud. The Titans have moved on from Will Levis to Mason Rudolph, and he's throwing for some touchdowns, and he does seem to have a little bit of chemistry with Ridley. Ridley had 7 receptions the last times these teams played, and now he's got Mason Rudolph back. So maybe we'll see some Ridley in there. Tony Pollard, their running back, is also getting less work, and Tyjae Spears is getting more of the work. Spears came in last week and had a couple touchdowns in that loss to the Colts. So maybe you can start Tyjae Spears. This is a great matchup, but so Brian Thomas Jr., Tyjae Spears, otherwise just move on from this game.
Well, let's also move on to Green Bay at Minnesota, where Minnesota's favored by 1.5 and the over-under is 48.5. These teams, I always feel like these teams are really competitive when they face off against each other. I know there's always rivalries in the NFL, but this is one of the ones I think of when I think of like, oh, that game must be very exciting to attend. And
It is for everyone that's local because, all of us outside of Green Bay and Minnesota are like, is Green Bay in Minnesota or is that Wisconsin? And we always confuse these two. And I know local people hate that, but everyone else in the country is like, wait, where is that? Aren't they like the same place? Anyhow, we get a dome in this one, so that's fun. No rain to worry about. And these are really, really motivated teams because this is key seeding for both of these teams. And we saw these two teams play earlier in the season, and it was a 60-point game. That was week 4. So a lot of things have changed since week 4. Are we going to see these same two teams? But I'm excited that we do get to see this in a dome and we don't have to have it raining or snowing in Green Bay, that we actually get to determine who has the better team without the weather becoming a factor. First time they met, Love passed for 389 yards. Can he do it again?
it's inside.
I don't know.
Feels
It is
good.
inside. The wide receivers for Green Bay continue to be a mystery for me, but Christian Watson has a knee injury, and that could end up helping out Reed, Wicks, and Dobbs pick up touches. So I like them a little bit better, but if you're going to play a Green Bay wide receiver, good luck picking which one it's going to be that gets lucky this week.
In a similar picking which one is going to get lucky, I think there's been some tight end news for Green Bay as well, with their tight end Luke Musgrave off IR.
Yeah, they activated him last week. He wasn't used. He ran a few routes, but he was not passed to last week. It was all Tucker Kraft that we saw the work going to last week. I'm sure they're going to continue to use him and try to integrate him into that offense more and more since he just got back from IR. But right now it's all Tucker Kraft. Who knows? And then Green Bay continued to use Josh Jacobs, but they were ahead last week, and the Vikings are allowing the 4th fewest rushing yards per game. It isn't going to be a Jacobs kind of day. He's a real cautious or even a sit start in this game. It's not going to be a running game. You're going to have to pass to win this game. Vikings are okay with that. They like to do that. Darnold's had 2 touchdown passes in 7 of his last nine games. And Justin Jefferson had a season-high fantasy point week, catching 10 of 13 targets and 2 touchdowns last week. He's getting hot at the right time. And then they've got Jordan Addison there as well, who's getting touchdowns too and targets. You've got to start Jordan Love. You've got to start Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. They're all must starts. Green Bay wide receivers, I don't know, pick one if you want to, or Tucker Kraft. And then the running backs, Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs. Hopefully you've got better options.
Let's move on to Las Vegas at New Orleans, where New Orleans is favored by 2.5. Over-under is 40.5. I don't think you're getting your better running back options from this game. Maybe Kamara?
Yeah, Kamara looks to return from his groin injury, but he's had just 2 touchdowns in his last 10 games, and now he's coming back. These two teams are already looking ahead to next year, draft picks, new coaches, the future. It's not now for sure. The only thing interesting in this game is Brock Bowers has a shot to break the NFL record for receptions by a tight end in a season, needing 16 in the next 2 weeks. He had 11 last week. And that's not for a rookie. He's a rookie, but he is set to break the NFL record in his rookie year. It's amazing on a bad team. They've got to be trying to get that record for him, I would think. Jacoby Myers, the Raiders wide receiver, looks to bounce back from that Jaguars game last week. We thought that he had a great matchup, but he had just 5 targets. The Saints give up the 4th most receiving yards per game, so hopefully he'll have a better day. It's 2 very average defenses. The Saints are kind of on the bottom end of that. The Raiders have the better defense here. There's nobody that's other than Brock Bowers that you've got to start from this game. There's a couple interesting ones that are cautious in Jacoby Myers and Alvin Kamara if he's healthy. Everyone else, yeah, move on.
Like we've said for other games, you probably didn't get to your championship or some of these players, maybe Brock Bowers, but
yeah, that's it.
Well,
maybe Jacoby Myers. He was running well there for a while and not now. Anyhow, let's go on.
Let's chat Carolina at Tampa Bay, where Tampa Bay is favored by 7.5. Over under is 48.5. What's Tampa Bay playing for?
They can still get in the playoffs. They can still win the NFC South. They just need a loss by the Falcons, and they need to keep winning and get a loss from the Falcons. And we'll get to the Falcons, who are playing Sunday night football here in a few more games. So this is definitely for the Buccaneers on a must-win level. They can't lose this game. Carolina's not playing for anything except looking good for next year, which they've been doing. It's impressive how far they've come, and I did not think that Dave Canales could get them there, but I am definitely impressed by the work that Dave Canales has done. It's interesting that Dave Canales came from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to the Carolina Panthers after last season. And he has worked with Baker Mayfield, who is a great story as well, stepping into that role after bouncing around from team to team. Both these teams give great fantasy games. Evans going to get maybe his 1,000-yard season. He needs 180 yards in the next 2 games for that 1,000-yard season. He has a bonus in his contract. You know that team wants to get him that bonus. This is always a fun time of year when sometimes they'll publish the list of bonuses that can be achieved. Probably look for it next week. And it's always interesting to watch a team try to get their players the bonuses. The Panthers are coming off that overtime win over Arizona, and Bryce Young had 27 fantasy points. Bucks are giving up the 4th most passing yards per game, and Young's looking pretty good now. Is this going to be our shootout? It should be our shootout, but you can also run on both of these defenses. I like pretty much everybody in this game. I think the only caution here are injuries. So Adam Thielen popped up on the injury report on Thursday with a hamstring injury. You know, we hate those hamstring injuries because they never end up trending well. And I think that's what he had earlier this season when he was out, was a hamstring injury. So it's kind of returning, which isn't a good sign. But we've also have Xavier Legette is expected to return. So now we may have Legette and Jalen Coker, who has really shown the last few weeks some explosiveness, and he's a rookie. So it's fun to see what he can do. You're just starting everybody here. You got any caution in this game, or other than injury? Or are we just going to push, Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Bucky Irving, Rachaad White, Bryce Young? They're all in. Go play.
I'm excited about this one. I think this one's going to be a fun one to watch. And I think it is going to, I'm hoping it's on the overside and going to be a little more of a score fest for both sides.
I think so. Yeah. Chuba Hubbard had a season high last week for fantasy points with 32. Bucks are giving up more to the pass than the run, and Hubbard only had 43 yards on 12 carries when these two teams played just a few weeks ago in week 13. We'll see if Hubbard can find some more running room this time around. Hey, guess what? It's going to rain in that game too.
Be good if Bryce Young starts struggling with some of the passing from the rain. Chuba Hubbard could have a good day.
Be good.
Let's continue to Dallas at Philadelphia, where Philadelphia is favored by 9.5. Over under is 41.5. And this one has some big injuries. Jalen Hurts is still on concussion protocol. Maybe he'll play on Sunday, but it's unlikely because his concussion's from last Sunday. So that protocol is like 10 days now. We might see Kenny Pickett instead.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett said he's good to go. So I think we'll probably see Kenny Pickett. And Dallas shut down CeeDee Lamb. He's not going to play anymore this season, which is good. We were all wondering why they were playing him anyway and jeopardizing his health. So I'm glad that they've pulled CeeDee Lamb out of this mix. Eagles need a win. They need a win for this division. Is this just Saquon Barkley show, for the first half, and then he gets benched and we get to see the backups?
I think that's my biggest caution with this game is it feels like it could be a key players that you depend on are only going to play a quarter or maybe a half. And then you're going to start seeing them get pulled. And that really impacts your fantasy points. If your player if they decide, oh, Barkley's only going to play 25% of the snaps.
Yeah, you can definitely get hurt playing Saquon Barkley for your championship, too. This is fantasy championships. And now you can't depend on Saquon Barkley to play an entire game. It's a bad day. I had Derrick Henry, and we saw he didn't play the whole game on Christmas Day. I still got enough production out of him that I think I'm going to be fine. And I think you'll probably get the same out of Saquon Barkley. The only interesting part to this game is Cooper Rush has won 4 of his last 5 games. The Eagles are giving up the third fewest passing yards per game. So are they just going to shut down the Cowboys? And the Eagles are giving up the 6th fewest rushing yards. Is this going to be another game where, the losing team can only score 2 points like we saw Christmas Day? It seems like it.
This game feels like it could be on the 6-3 side.
Yeah, so you've got to start Saquon Barkley. You're probably starting A.J. Brown because you don't have a choice as well, but there's a lot of caution around. I wouldn't really start anyone else.
Let's chat Miami at Cleveland, where Miami's favored by 6.5. The over-under is 40. What's going on with this one? I know Dolphins have struggled, but kind of come back together later in the season.
Yeah, they're holding on. They haven't been eliminated from playoffs, believe it or not, but they don't control their own destiny. They need Denver to lose to Cincinnati on Saturday, so they will know that going into this game. I think if Denver wins, they'll eliminate both Miami and the Colts, I think. It's December in Cleveland. What could go wrong for Miami? But it is 50 degrees. It's also raining and 10-mile-an-hour winds. So they're getting a break, though, on the temperatures. It's not 2 or something. It looks like Waddle is going to be back for this matchup. It's just been a disappointing season for the Dolphins. And I don't know that if they get into the playoffs, I don't feel them going very well. Devon Achane racked up 31 fantasy points last week, and the Browns' defense is allowing the third fewest receiving yards per game to running backs, though, and Achane depends on those passes. Achane's had 3 receptions in all 11 games he's played with Tua, but Browns aren't letting that happen, so it'll be interesting to see how good of a day Devon Achane has. Tua's not had over 215 passing yards and only 1 touchdown in back-to-back games. So can he break out of that and be more like Joe Burrow last week with 250 yards and 3 touchdown passes against the Browns?
What about the Browns side? Are we getting Winston back?
No. Can we just cry? We want to throw a fit. Give us Winston. I mean, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, DTR, he threw 2 interceptions too. Can't we just have fun and have some fantasy production as well. With Jameis Winston, why do you have to make us all suffer through the DTR days? Give us Winston, and at least it's fun. And Jerry Jeudy only had 3 targets with DTR. David Njoku did have 10 targets, but I guess he's just checking it down. He doesn't know what he's doing, and he can't throw like Jameis Winston. It
Yeah.
was Jerome Ford who seemed to benefit from the quarterback change. So not only the quarterback change, but now Nick Chubb to share the backfield with. And Jerome Ford had 92 yards and a touchdown and 39 receiving yards last week. But Miami gives up the 10th fewest rushing yards per game at 83. I still like him. Anytime you got a back not sharing, it's a good situation. So I still like Jerome Ford in this game, as well as Devon Achane. And then we get to our, do I really want to start them into a Tyreek Hill? Janu Smith should be a good start in this matchup as well. And David Njoku.
I don't think you're starting DTR or Jerry Jeudy.
No, Jeudy had been getting it done, but now we got DTR and we got it rain.
Bring back Winston.
Bring back Winston. Yes.
Let's chat Atlanta at Washington, where Washington's favored by 4. Over-under is 47.5. And I think this is going to be the second starting game for Michael Penix Jr.
It is. It is a second starting game. He had an easy introduction to the NFL, getting that start against the New York Giants. But Washington gives up the 4th fewest passing yards per game at 200. So this game's going to be a little bit different. This is the first primetime game in NFL history between rookie starting quarterbacks that were each selected in the first round. So these 2 quarterbacks were selected with the number 2 and number 8 picks. And this is the first time we'll see that.
Wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Same draft, first round.
Yep. Drake London left last week's game. He had 8 targets, but he left the game early with a minor hamstring injury, said it was just precautionary and he should be good to go. They're going to need all the firepower that they can find to go against Washington, who we saw come back against the Eagles last week and win that game. Jaden Daniels led that comeback against the Eagles. It was crazy. He went 24 of 39 for 258 yards and 5 touchdowns. He threw 2 interceptions, but he still had those 5 touchdowns. And he ran 9 times for 81 yards. He was quarterback 1 for the week last week. He's going to be looking to do it again this week against the Falcons. Last week, Bijan Robinson was their go-to guy. I don't know if that was by design. You got a rookie quarterback in your first start, or if it was because the Giants suck. Either way, he had 22 carries and 94 yards for 2 touchdowns. Washington allows the 6th most rushing yards per game. And last week we saw Barkley rack up 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. So what can Bijan Robinson do this week?
What do you think about Terry McLaurin this week?
I like Terry McLaurin. I feel like this is a good passing matchup for the Commanders, and that they're going to need to pass the ball. Brian Robinson is looking to make up for a bad week last week. He was just awful. He had 10 carries for 24 yards. But he's sharing the backfield these days with a couple other running backs. I don't know how much he'll make up in this game. It's a pretty balanced defense situation in both of these teams. I've got to start Bijan Robinson, Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin. Those are all the stars for these 2 teams. And then, I don't know, Drake London, we're going to have to watch that hamstring injury, but I have a feeling he'll be playing and they're going to need him. And then Brian Robinson, he's just sharing. I hope you can get into a situation where you can pick up somebody that's not sharing.
I think for any of the other wide receivers on the Atlanta side, I'd be a little cautious between the rain and a rookie going in for his second game. I like Bijan Robinson, maybe even Tyler Algier a little bit more.
I do like Tyler Algier. That's the problem with Bijan is whenever he gets to that high level of production, they bring in Algier to take off the workload. So he never hits the Saquon Barkley numbers.
I think we're starting to learn that it might not have necessarily been Arthur Smith pulling Bijan as much as something else behind the scenes there.
I don't know why they've just decided to not run him as hard, or if it's just that they feel they have another quality back in Tyler Algier. Algier does a good job when he's in there. So it's definitely a balance. And since they have him, they should use him.
Well, let's chat the Colts at the Giants, where the Colts are favored by 8. Over under is 40.5. This should be a good game for Jonathan Taylor, right? Can't believe
It,
I'm saying
yeah,
that, but
it definitely should be. He made it up to fantasy owners last week for that situation a couple weeks ago where he decided to drop the ball and as he entered the end zone and fumbled out of the end zone. So last week he made it up to us, scoring 42 fantasy points. It's hard to do that 2 weeks in a row, but he's playing the Giants and that helps a lot. So yeah, Jonathan Taylor must start in this situation. Anthony Richardson has a great matchup too because he would run the ball as well, or he could try to pass it. He hasn't been that great of a passer. Either way, but Anthony Richardson ended up on the injury report with a back and foot injury. The Colts are optimistic that he's going to play, but if you are looking for a quarterback, he's definitely got a great matchup and is one that you could play in DFS or stream this week because it is such a good matchup and he runs the ball. But check those injury reports to see if he ends up playing.
do you
The
think
whole
he's
situation, go
I was
ahead.
about to ask, do you think he's kind of playing for his job for next year? Because that midseason taking himself out of the game for a minute got him a lot of
He
looks, I think.
In my Colts playbook, he is definitely playing for his job, but they seem to be more devoted to him than I am.
That's another situation where I kind of wonder what happened behind the scenes because it seems like he came back energetic, more focused, more
Yeah,
ready to get the job done.
he just doesn't seem like a leader for a team. I want my quarterback to lead my team. I want my quarterback to be like Jaden Daniels, who already looks to be stepping in and leading that team. And I don't feel like Richardson knows how to be that leader. And Flacco's done nothing to teach him, apparently, or maybe he has, and maybe that was a little bit of the improvement. On the Giants side, Colts give up points too. So the Colts gave up 2 touchdowns to Tyjae Spears last week and almost let the Titans come back and get into win that game. The Colts are allowing the 6th most rushing yards per game. So Tyrone Tracy becomes a good start in this game at home for the Giants. Malik Neighbors is also missing practice with a toe injury, and now he's a game time decision. The only one I got to start is Tyrone Tracy. I like the matchup for Tyrone Tracy in this game, and then Jonathan Taylor and perhaps Anthony Richardson. If Flacco gets to play, the wide receivers for the Colts become more interesting, but they're a little bit like the Green Bay mystery and who's it going to be.
Well, let's wrap it up with our Monday night game, Detroit at San Francisco, where Detroit's favored by 4 and the over under is 50. I think this is one of our highest over unders of the weekend.
It is. Yeah, I don't think it's raining in this game. The Lions continue to battle the Vikings for the NFC North title. They're tied right now, but they will know on Monday night if the Vikings won on Saturday or not. They're also at this moment holding the top spot for that bye in the NFC. They got to keep winning to stay up there, but they'll know at least if the pressure's really on them. 49ers have been eliminated. They're not playing for anything except pride. And Jared Goff has been hot, but the 49ers are allowing the second fewest passing yards per game. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 8 targets last week and a touchdown. Jamison Williams had a season high last week, mostly though due to an 82-yard touchdown reception. And Laporta's been double-digit fantasy points 4 straight weeks. I feel like, well, let's keep going. Jamar Gibbs is alone in the backfield now with the injury to David Montgomery. And last week, he had 23 carries, 109 yards, and 1 touchdown, and then caught 5 passes for 45 yards. He had great production. And last week, the 49ers let Devon Achane with the Dolphins run all over them. He had 120 yards and a touchdown and 6 catches for 70 yards. I feel like we see a lot more of Jahmyr Gibbs, but we know that the Lions like to spread the ball around. They like everybody to get their touchdown. They want to put up their 50 points and everybody gets a touchdown. So we're starting all of our Lions players, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs. They're must starts. Even Jameson Williams, I like, Sam Laporta, maybe even Jared Goff.
I feel like it could be a good game for Jared Goff.
Yeah. So 49er side, Lions are giving up the sixth most passing yards per game. Purdy's either had a great game or a disaster of a game. Last week, he was 26 of 40 for 313 yards and 2 touchdowns, an interception. So he had a good game last week. And then last week we saw Deebo Samuel return, and he didn't return. He just kind of returned to fantasy relevancy. He showed up last week and got a touchdown. He's still hit or miss, so he's kind of a cautious start for me. I think the only 49er player that I'm truly committed in is George Kittle, and Kittle's 33 yards away from his 4,000-yard season. Last week he had 8 catches, 406 yards, didn't get in the end zone. And then as far as running back wise, we're going to see, I think, Garendo return this week, which is good because Patrick Taylor did not deliver. He only rushed the ball 8 times for 24 yards, which was really surprising, I think, to everyone. We're used to the 49ers being committed to their running back, and they definitely were not. And then Jawan Jennings, he hasn't been over 10 fantasy points in his last 2 games. Definitely a cautious start there. So now we're, is Samuel coming back? Is anyone motivated? There are just questions on the 49ers side of the ball, and start them all with caution.
Well, and the Detroit Lions their defense is good at beating up the other side. And we've seen it throughout the season of just like, after teams play the Detroit Lions, they seem to struggle a little bit and are extra, I don't want to say injured, but maybe sore is the better term.
Could be.
So I'd be cautious on the 49ers side, combined with how the 49ers have just had a injury prone season.
Yeah.
Well, that's wraps us up though. That's all the games for week 17. Good luck if you're in your championships. We also have some DraftKings contest up and running this weekend, and we have 2 DFS episodes out now. You can find the links to all those in our description. We'd love to have you join us.
Yeah, let's win some championships and move on to DFS.
Yes. Happy holidays.